right, so good morning. Now, by show of hands, let me stand in front of here. By show of hands, who has not seen a drone before in person? Really, we have a few of you. Awesome. Well, that's one of them. So we're going to talk a little bit about this new technology, and I'm actually really excited to be here because this is a very different crowd than I usually talk to. So this week I've spoken at the Air Force Academy to some military people, which is very, very different. And the week prior I was in Prague talking to 600 first responders. And the artistic side is really what's getting me more and more excited. And so it's really great to be here. I wish this was my picture, but unfortunately it's not. The problem, because this is not my picture, is it's a national park, and we are not allowed to fly drones in national parks. All right, so.
You have a 1.5 gigabyte PowerPoint, so you have to.
It's a small one. It's only 1.5 gigabytes. I decided to keep it short today. Well, the beautiful thing is with this technology, we are seeing the world in a very different perspective. And think about it. For the last 100 years and more, we have been taking images from an eye perspective level. And now, just going up 10, 15, 20, 100, 400 feet, it changes the way we see our environment. Your house looks dramatically different from 50 feet than from ground level. And so that's the exciting part. We can actually find new joy in visiting areas that we have been visiting for years because we can see them in a different perspective. All right, do we want to do some Swiss jokes?
Sorry.
I'm going to just get started with my presentation. I know it in my mind, and so I'm just going to describe what you should be seeing. My name is Romeo Durscher. If you have detected an accent, I'm from South Chicago. Born and raised in Switzerland, and I moved to the US in '97 because I really wanted to work on a space mission. See, in Switzerland there's not much space, there's more chocolate and watches and that kind of stuff. So I came to the United States, and I was lucky enough to work for almost 13 years on a couple of space missions for NASA. One was the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And I really got to learn a lot about our sun. And think about this. The sun is the only star that we know of that grows vegetables. True fact. We don't know of any other star that can do that. And because of my love for technology, I ended up in this environment, Drones for Good. So here's a clicker. Let's see how this all works. Okay, let's get started with something visually. And this is a really interesting, no, not this guy. Let's see. This footage was taken by Rihanna, who is here inside the auditorium. Where are you? Right up there. And I wanted to start off my presentation just with this piece, looking at an event, a massive event, from a very different perspective. And this, to me, really showed what we could possibly do with this technology if we just got our mind around a few little things. So I'm going to take you on a really interesting journey over the next 30 minutes. So we already know everything we need to know about this guy. I talked about having worked for NASA. At NASA, what we were doing was STEM education and outreach, science, technology, engineering, and math. There is one missing component in all of this. Guess which one? Yes. It has to be STEAM education, and I'm really, really glad that now by incorporating this technology, I can also do a little bit more artistically outreach stuff. By the way, the picture in the background, taken by the International Space Station over your lovely area. So not Chicago, that's where I'm from. Seattle is just a little bit south or below that, the first top red arrow. All right, so I started flying these machines about 5 years ago, and I realized that if you actually point the camera at you and you take a picture, you know, the selfie, you can do a droney. And you can do actually really cool stuff. You can show perception and perspective in a completely different way. So you see these two people up there on the rock. That's my friend and I, and it just shows you how large this wave is. Now, if you do a panorama, so you take multiple shots and you stitch them together, then you have an aerial panorama that just is completely different than pretty much anything I had ever seen. So this is how I gotten into aerial photography. And then it ended up with projects like this one. Nowadays, you couldn't pull this one off without getting arrested. But, you know, 3 years ago, the environment was quite different. So that's Notre Dame in Paris, in case you haven't noticed. Avignon, an aerial panorama of Avignon in the Provence. Just fantastic that you can get these views. One of my favorite views is the God's eye view, looking straight down at something, because it completely changes the way you see this castle, for example, on this little island in Switzerland. Or then you look at the craziness of a big city in a different way, Hong Kong. So I just wanted to show these few images to give you an idea what can be done, but that's not all. Oh yeah, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. So if you believe the media, I have done it all. Truly, I have, according to the media. There was a picture taken by an AP reporter that then ended up in the AP database, and every time there's a crazy drone story, guess what? They take that picture and put it into the story. So, here we go. That's the picture of me. Drone war. German court throws out case by family of slain Yemenis. And there's my picture. Drone knocks woman unconscious at Seattle Pride Parade. Drone attack survivors take their stories to Washington. I can spy on people. Now this one I actually kind of like because it makes me look like a teenager. But seriously, I am waiting for the day when I go to the Seattle airport and this little 5-year-old boy looks at me and goes, "Mommy, it's the bad drone guy." This one I did Photoshop, because come on, there's only one picture that can go with the headline of "Drone follows woman from bar, crashes into her car." That's me flying with one of our machines on my back. Anyway, so who is DJI? What is DJI? Well, DJI is the world's largest manufacturer of commercial and consumer drones. And what once started out as a flight controller, which is the brain, in essence, of a drone, turned into a whole array of different aerial as well as ground products that we use to get not only amazing footage and videos, but to create stories. And I oversee all of education at DJI, and that's a whole big project because it's about educating new operators how they can use the technology safely. And it's about changing public perception, because the word drone, come on, admit it. The moment I said drone, you were thinking of some military application, and then of course, you know, the slain Yemenis story didn't really help because I'm apparently the bad guy. It's about educating industry how they can use the technology. And it's working with government. That there's this one really cool picture of me with some high person, government person in Ireland, so I had to stick that one in. Makes it look very official. But it's also about getting the hardware and the software into schools, into academia, so that students and teachers and researchers can use this technology. And, bless you, it's about humanitarian applications, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about further down the road. So, now, if you do a Google search on drones, you get some really incredible results. So first of all, you get Amazon, local stuff, because Amazon wants to deliver your books and DVDs by drone. Then you get military. Everything about military, from attacks to drones to strikes. Then you get the camera. So you're starting to finally get to see what I'm talking about. And you get one reference of a bee. Now, if you look at all the pictures, out of all those pictures, 7 represent our technology, DJI. We are the market leaders right now, and that's very exciting, but it's also challenging because if you're always in first spot, you know, you get kind of lazy at times, and we don't want to be lazy. So drones have so many applications, from agriculture to search and rescue to sport broadcast, TV news broadcast, wildlife monitoring, mapping, education. It's quite amazing, all the areas where we can use this technology. Now, let's go back to the media. Drones terrify pilots, so why are they sold at Newark Airport? I truly believe that the most safest place to buy a drone would be at an airport, because honestly, who would unpack it inside the airport and fly it inside the airport? I probably shouldn't ask that question, because there's probably this one person somewhere in the world who would do that. What airheads? JFK drone sales. It's the same story. This time, instead of the New York airport, it's the JFK airport. When I hear the term airheads, I either think of candy or a 1990s movie, but I don't think selling a drone at an airport constitutes being an airhead. Here's a Washington Post one-page article that says, it's crowded out there, looking outside a plane window. Look at all these drones out there. Is this reality? Is this what the American media thinks it looks like out there? Now, to counter all of this, this is a story out of Germany, how DJI and Lufthansa got together to work on programs incorporating our technology in what Lufthansa does. This is like 180 degrees from what we see on the US side in the media. Now, there are challenges. We human beings are very interesting creatures in so many ways, and especially us guys. When we take something, we unbox it, we throw away the manual, we just turn it on and we go and do whatever we want to do with the technology. Of course, that creates sometimes issues. And we've been seeing issues of drones being used in ways that we would like not to see. But with education, we can overcome headlines like these where we fly into buildings with drones by mistake, or I truly did not do this. Oh my God, this guy was arrested for apparently having peeped into a hospital with a drone, even though he was flying about 300 feet away from the hospital and was just going up and down. And trust me, I wish our cameras were that great that we could peep into windows. I will probably have a completely different occupation by now. What we want to see is this. We want to see amazing headlines that show how the drone is being used to showcase so many different things. And we're going to actually talk a little bit about this particular project. But first, UAVs in emergency response situations. So I just got back from Europe, where we announced a partnership with the European Emergency Number Association, which is, we have 911 here to call when we have an emergency. In Europe, it's 112. And we are establishing pilot test sites where we can utilize and use the technology and learn what are the needs of first responders. So I'm going to show you first a quick video that's fairly impactful. Hold on. It's not playing yet, huh?
Romeo, this is House Mollywood. It's a big wooden boat with 200 people. Start getting ready.
In all the things you say, it's okay. What comes is better than what came before. And you to me. Better come, 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 come to me. Better run.
The individual inside the vest. And it's a very tragic story, what's happening right there. And so I'm gonna talk to you how some of this technology has already been used in very wonderful applications. So in this particular situation here, one of my good friends, Radley, he went out and he helped the volunteers as well as the Greek Coast Guard to fly the drones up and down the coastline and spot makeshift boats and people with those makeshift life vests in the water. And for the time he was there, they had a huge impact and they rescued hundreds of people that possibly could have drowned. In Nepal, we had a really big earthquake. There's a picture missing, I don't know what happened to it. And we used the drone to 3D map areas of destructions. And then we brought in the community, the people that live there, to outline which areas should be rebuilt first, because it's their community. We can't come in and just start rebuilding when we don't know what is important and what is not important. So using the technology, but also incorporating the local people, that's key in everything. In Texas, just last year, we had these really bad floodings, and local search and rescue teams used technology to provide life vests across rivers or lifelines across rivers, and also spot for survivors. Search and rescue, it's almost a no-brainer to use this technology in search and rescue, because getting that aerial overview really helps. And a team in Ireland even created an application that helps search and rescue operations, and by that they can cut down the time it takes to find what they're looking for by up to 80%. That's huge. Firefighting, another great application to get that aerial perspective. That white container is filled with explosives. And there was a fire, and the fire department didn't know how close the fire was to that container, so they didn't send in the team. But by means of aerial views, you can determine if it's safe or not to go and battle this particular fire. So remember that one cover story about this beautiful location where we used the drone? Well, this is the story of it. And I'm now taking you into this fantastic journey through a hidden world called Son Doong. And Son Doong is unlike anything I had ever seen. It's the world's largest cave system. It's in central Vietnam. And last year, exactly yesterday, a year ago, I went onto the survey trip. And so we flew into Hanoi and then went down to Ho An, which is about central middle Vietnam there. And we went into this cave system with Good Morning America to see if we could do a live broadcast from underneath Earth, inside central Vietnam, across the world, and use drones to do live footage. So we were greeted by the wonderful people there, and it was a very small team. It was 3 people from ABC, it was myself, and then we had some local people that helped us navigate, and we also had a chaperone from the Vietnamese government, because they were a little hesitant letting these Americans let loose with drones. Apparently they had read all the news stories about me. So this is exactly what I had envisioned Vietnam to be. It was just such a beautiful place, and using the drones to capture it from above was just spectacular. We had help with getting our equipment to Son Doong. Son Doong is really at a very remote location, and you have to hike through the jungle. You have to cross the river over 30 times. It's not an easy task to get there. And so these local helpers were just amazing. And I had my own guy who insisted that he wanted to carry one of my drones. And of course, who am I to say no to that? This is Josh, he's the ABC engineer, and he's actually looking now if we can get line of sight to one of the satellites that we needed to do a live TV broadcast. And sure enough, outside Hang An, which is the third largest cave in the world, we actually got a reception to a satellite. And this is looking into Hang An. Hang An eventually turned out to be our live TV broadcast location. It's not always very glamorous when you're traveling in caves because we don't want to pollute the environment. We had to carry in buckets with rice, and we had to carry out buckets with rice and others. But that's not even the worst. That peeping Tom here, that was the worst. So it was midnight, and I had to use the bathroom, and I went in there, and I hear this sound, and I look up, and there is this guy up there. And so I just put my headlamp down, and I hear this plop sound. And I turn around, and he's gone. And I look into the bucket, and he's in the bucket. I did not go and do my business that day. So now we're leaving Hang An to go actually to Son Doong, which is another hike, day hike. And once you get inside Son Doong, you actually need people that you have to place in certain areas to just show how large and how massive this cave is. So there's actually two people, one on top of that hand of dog, what it's called, and then the other one right in front. In the background, you see this bright area. That's a dough line. It's an opening in the ceiling of the cave, about 1,000 feet above the ground of the cave, and it lets this light in. Behind me is the second dough line. This is an even larger opening. In fact, it is so large that on the bottom of the dough line, there is jungle that grows inside the cave. It's just spectacular. So fast forward, we decided that we can do a live TV broadcast out of this. So we got a much bigger team together, and we went back to Son Doong. And here is...
We've already taken you inside a volcano erupting.
Oh my gosh, you can see it!
But now, for the first time, fly with us inside a spectacular new discovery so mammoth, we could probably fly a 747 inside. So we're flying in with drones, an epic live event inside a breathtaking hidden world buried beneath a jungle. This has never happened on live TV, and we're even swimming with 20 million jellyfish in the Pacific.
This is unbelievable.
Next week, see the world's new wonders live on Good Morning America.
So this was the promo that we filmed. All the footage was from the first trip. We didn't have those toy drones there, unfortunately. We had real drones there.
We've already taken you inside a volcano erupting.
Oh my God!
So, it's now time to really prepare for the live TV broadcast. Everybody was tense, so I took the time to go and explore a little bit with the drone. And we had so much more equipment this time because we had to, in essence, lit up this humongous cave as much as possible so we could do a live TV broadcast out of it. And on the drone side, we also decided to bring more equipment because the last thing you want to do is have a crash and then have no drone when you're just about to do the live broadcast. So we brought a lot of equipment, 3 Inspire 1s, which are quite big, and then 3 of this guy, just so we would have enough equipment on hand. This time, we actually could fly into the jungle by the means of a Mi-17 helicopter, which is just a humongous machine. And it was only the second time that a helicopter had ever landed in this little village here. And so the kids were so excited to not only see a helicopter, but also see us fly drones around the helicopter. So now we're back inside Hang An, and this is taken by the drone, looking straight down at the campsite. And the next picture I'm going to show you is what Hang An looked like at the night of the live TV broadcast. So we actually really managed to lit up this tremendously big cavern. While we were slaving through the jungle, the engineers managed to have beers and protect the satellite dish. I don't know how they did that, but they definitely deserved it. So we are now inside Son Doong. In Son Doong, we couldn't do the live TV broadcast, so we taped that segment. And this is the descent into the cave. And this is what it looked like from the perspective of the drone. So the top light is the entrance, and we had to rappel down this particular wall. And the funny thing about caves is that, especially Son Doong, even though it's the world's largest cave, there are areas where you barely fit through. And so we had to really push not only ourselves, but the equipment through most narrow spaces. Once inside, it's a completely different world. It has its own weather pattern, and so it looks very cloudy at times, and at other times it's always nice and beautiful. But one thing we always had to do was at night we had to charge batteries, and that was a task that was no fun. Here we're flying outside of one of the dough lines, looking back down into the cave, and this is a view that we had never had before. This dough line lets light in, and in the morning it creates this atmosphere that's really outside of anything I had ever experienced. And if you look closely, you can see Ginger Z, our ABC talent, on top of this humongous stalagmite. And just to give you an idea what this looks like from the perspective of the drone, they destroy everything. So this is Ginger standing on top there, and we're flying with 2 drones around her, and it's quite an amazing sight, even though right now it's a little stuttery. This is really how we created an amazing view of an area that had never been seen before. The environment was really rough. It was so humid and it was dusty. After every flight, we had to clean off our equipment. You may be able to see that it's pretty much drenched in water droplets. It was that humid. And this is my friend Ferdinand. He's from Germany. Please note his shirt. He never sweats. Even though it was that humid, he never sweats. Unlike me, I don't know how he did it. So this is that second dough line I was telling you about. This is a vertical panorama. So on the bottom of the picture, you're looking straight down. If you move your eyes up, you can see more of the horizon. This is the area where the jungle grew inside the cave, and it's just spectacular. All right, so we're about ready to go live. There's so much equipment that has to be connected, and I was playing a joke on the team. I was just unplugging one little connector, and everybody was going crazy. So I put it right back in, and they didn't talk to me for a couple hours, but it was quite funny. We had one big challenge. This is about 2 minutes before we were supposed to go live, and a big thunderstorm moved in over the cave. We had 3 channels to the satellite, one for the drone, one for the handheld camera, and one for communications. The communications channels went dead. So we had no way to communicate to New York, or New York, the studio, to communicate to us. So we had to wing it. But we won it really well, and everything ended up really good. And so I'm going to leave you now with just a very short movie about this experience. Son Doong, seen by a drone. We are in central Vietnam, just outside of the hidden world of Son Doong. Son Doong is the world's largest cave system, and what we're doing here is we're writing TV history. Together with an ABC Good Morning America team and their engineers, we will be live broadcasting out of the hidden world of Son Doong. We actually flew into the jungle by means of a helicopter because we had so much equipment. At times, we could see long lines of porters carrying equipment, food, power generators, cables through the thick brush, across rivers and down into the cave. We had to continue to cross rivers, trek through the jungle, rappel down walls and make our ways through very narrow areas of the cave. All of this in very high humidity with constant mist in the air and very dusty conditions. At times, it was pitch black dark inside the caves. We had to be careful. Every step had to be carefully planned as there were cliffs and very sharp rocks. Then we trekked through the first cave, the Hang An Cave, which became, in essence, our home base.
George, I am way down here. From the perspective you can see me, about 400 feet below the top of one of the world's largest caverns. It is inside a mountain, inside a jungle in central Vietnam. And this, I have to be honest with you, has been one of, or the, I would say, most difficult, dangerous, and grittiest assignments I have ever been a part of. We've been staying in these tents. We've been cooking over fires. This, again, is very remote. We are not close to any civilization. This is brand new to our world, this subterranean, surreal life that has been revealed, and now you get to be a part of it.
Inside the Son Doong cave, there are two areas that have a big, huge hole in the ceiling, about 300 feet above. Those are called dough lines. And we've been using the DJI Inspire 1 as well as the Phantom 3 to see what kind of footage we could get flying inside those massive caves. And both have performed flawlessly.
The focus of the trip was to get aerial footage from inside the world's largest cave. However, flying in a cave introduces a lot of challenges, such as no GPS reception. The caves are big enough to create their own climate zones, including clouds and fog, so conditions changed constantly. We faced temperatures as high as 40 degrees Celsius and extreme humidity up to 95%. Because of the gigantic dimensions of the caves, our depth perception was very limited. Therefore, we had to rely solely on our line of sight and the live view from the camera.
The environment was pretty harsh with the humidity, the water, sand and dust. But the equipment performed flawlessly. Teamwork and working with equipment that provides the capabilities that we needed to do this has been the key in making this a successful event. Very much. I hope that now you have a much different view of these machines that we call drones, and I'm looking forward if you have any questions to answer them later on. Thank you.